Dr. Katyayani, and Gajrao Bhupal sir, please. Okay, it is a privilege to sign the MOU by Center for Human Security Studies with value of words. As you all know, most of the people in Hyderabad, they are aware of Center for Human Security Studies. It was established in 2013. The idea of establishing Center for Human Security Studies in Hyderabad is basically to introduce the geopolitics to Hyderabad, bring down the importance of the international affairs and global affairs, and do some outreach work, establish the importance, especially among the youth here, to inform them, educate them about the international affairs and the global politics, geopolitics, especially when the world is becoming more and more interdependent. And last 8 years, we have been actively involved in training of officers from the defense services, police service, then research, and of course, our most biggest achievement is outreach activities, reaching out to various colleges and institutions across Hyderabad and south of India. We have had MOUs signed up with several institutions of international repute, both in India and abroad, some universities abroad and in India, and it is privileged to sign the MOU with value of words today. With that, I hand over to Dr. Amna Mirza. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Francis. A very good afternoon, namaskar to everyone. And trust me, it's great to be here at Hyderabad. To begin the deliberations for this session, I would first request Sanjeev sir and representatives from Center for Human Security Studies to sign the MOU. So let's go ahead with the moment that we all have been waiting for. Two wonderful entities who are into some excellent work with reference to arts, studying together, books, discovering new horizons of knowledge. So here we are. Once again, a round of applause. Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, great historian, policy analyst, and founder festival director of Value of Words International Literature Festival, Dehradun. Definitely needs no introduction. And Center for, okay. So once again, friends, an action replay with the applause. What a great occasion that was. We just had the signing of MOU between WOW and Center for Human Security Studies. And as aptly pointed out by Dr. Francis, that beginning its journey right in 2013 and with a very great aim of sensitizing the youth and other officials with respect to issues concerning international relations. Now, being an educator and an eternal learner in this realm of global governance, I truly believe that international relations is not something out there anymore, but it is something that connects daily lives, that impacts issues of common people. And this is where the idea of human security indeed becomes very essential. We shall be deliberating more about it, but we have been also told that yes, at the SAV we have a very special moment again, as we'll be having the book, an edited book comprising of some wonderful chapters and insights into the realm of how the entire global governance paradigm is witnessing change. So we congratulate Dr. Kanegati Ramesh Garu, Dr. Katyayani Juneja Sharma ma'am for this wonderful work, Understanding India's Geopolitics Post-COVID-19 Era. And we request Sanjeev sir and Dr. Gajrao Bhupal Garu to please take the lead and launch the book, and then we'll be, of course, discussing more about the book. So, Dr. Kanagati Ramesh, and of course, we'll be talking more about the book, but we'll be having the book launch now at the WOW MCR HRD Young Adult Literature and Translation. We have this wonderful book edited by Dr. Kanagati Ramesh, Dr. Katyani Juneja Sharma ji, Understanding India's Geopolitics Post-COVID-19 Era. And we congratulate all of them.
I think one in which the editors can be. Yes. And we can be on the back.
No problem.
Sir, here you can.
Both of you can hold a copy.
Yeah, please hold a photocopy. Congratulations.
Great, congratulations.
So, friends, here we have Understanding India's Geopolitics Post-COVID-19 Era. Once again, congratulations to Dr. Ramesh, congratulations, Dr. Kaityani. Now, before we go ahead to learn more about all the interesting things the books, this book and the wonderful chapters therein have to offer, I'd like to open it up by requesting Sanjeev sir first. So, Sanjeev sir, you definitely need no introduction, but I want you to set the context, you know, because when we talk about geopolitics today, and when we understand this geopolitics, it has a huge bearing with reference to several issues concerning global governance. And COVID pandemic, we did see how one virus disrupted many of our understandings concerning domestic institutions, mechanisms of international relations, amongst others. So on that note, with disruption defining our everyday life from national to global level, how do we then understand this bigger framework? And being a historian, a policy analyst, I guess your perspectives here would really help us navigate further with respect to ideas. Sir, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Amna Mirza, for laying the context for this. And I'm very glad that I have with me Dr. Gajarao Bhupal, who's also written the foreword to this book, and of course the two young editors, Katyani and Dr. Ramesh. Now you see, the title of the book itself is very interesting. It is to understand India's geopolitics. Now, the issue is that India is one of the most important players in the world of politics today, not just because of the continental size that we have, not just on account of the population that we have, not just on account of the military strategy that we have, but also because we are now in the forefront of several areas. And speaking from Hyderabad, which is the place from where one of the vaccines has come, speaking from Hyderabad, which is one of the places where IT industry has developed, speaking from Hyderabad, where the seed industry and the agriculture sector is growing very well. And therefore, what is happening is that the world today is looking at what India is doing. And the fact is that we have not really punched our weight in the world. Traditionally, we were thinking that just because we are not members of the Security Council, we cannot punch our weight. But it is now becoming increasingly clear that a country can punch its weight only if it has a strategic notion about itself. And therefore, it's very important that we have started looking at our own strategic concerns. And this book is very important because it looks at various aspects of how Indians look at themselves. Because unless we are clear about how we look at ourselves, it will be very difficult for us to reach out to the world. And therefore, I like the selection of articles, the selection of very eclectic articles from right to information, to forestry, to issues relating to post-COVID, to issues relating to medicine, to issues relating to education. So the book is a very comprehensive picture because you cannot understand the geopolitics of a nation unless you understand the nation itself. So I think this book is also targeted to an international audience, to an audience of people who are connected with and interested in the larger aspect of human security. As we are all aware, national security is something which we were all taught in school. In fact, in school, let's look at the transition. Earlier, if you recall, it used to be the Department of War. Then the Department of War changed its name to the Department of Defense. You know, so we keep changing terms. But even in the changing of terms, there's a great insight, there is a great thought process to it. So no longer do you have armies of occupation, because the area, the thought that you can capture territory, that is a dead and a gone concept, because you don't have to really capture territory. You manage to, and you are interested in understanding the human mind the most, because understanding the human mind, understanding the aspect of human security is closely linked to that. And therefore, this book is very important from the aspect of what human security is about, and the articles that it has on preparedness. May I request the ladies in the last row to please either keep quiet, or if there's something very important, you may go out and have a cup of tea. But a certain decorum has to be maintained, and it's very important to do that. Okay. Now, you see, the second part of the book talks about COVID-19. Now, you know, one of the things which COVID-19 has done is that it has changed the perspective of Yuval Noah Harari. Remember the books that were there, 21 lessons for the 21st century. Then there was this book, you know, Homo sapiens, and Homo Deus, in which the whole aspect was that human beings have conquered the world. I mean, the whole aspect was one of arrogance. You see, two books which had an impact. One was Francis Fukuyama, when he said that the history has come to an end. That again came from a very imperialistic and a very, you know, what should one say, a very self-confident and a very gloating kind of a thing. COVID has taught, if COVID has taught one thing, it has taught us that the little virus shows that human beings are human beings, that human beings will always be vulnerable. That also it shows that the nation state as a category is a very permanent concept, because, you know, there are people who think that the nation state is not important. But if you have a pandemic like COVID, who's going to come to the rescue? It's not the WHO. Let's be clear about it. Who can handle a pandemic like COVID? It is not the nation, other than the nation state. All the other institutions can have conferences, can do anything. But at the end of the day, what did Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation do about it? What did the WHO do about it? What could the civil society do about it? You require a strong state. And that's very important for all of us to understand, that a nation state is always relevant, will continue to be relevant, and becomes more relevant in times of crisis. And therefore, in the post-COVID world, it's very important for all of us to recognize that the state shall bat on the front foot. India, we've had our internal differences of opinion. There are several political parties. Political parties have accused each other. TV channels have accused, which is fine. I think that's fair game in politics to want to take credit. I mean, taking credit for something well done is part of politics. So it's understandable. So let's understand that. And therefore, all chief ministers, prime ministers, cutting across party lines, everyone has started taking credit for managing COVID. We in the civil services, the policemen, the doctors, everybody wants to take credit for that. That's fine. But the essential point that I want to make is that the nation state continues to be a very important entity. And within the nation state, it's very important for us to understand what human security is. So the fact that all these points are brought out in this book, I'd like to congratulate both Katyani and Dr. Ramesh for this wonderful presentation which they have. And as we go along, if there are more questions, we'll discuss that. Thank you very much, Amna, for asking me to begin this.
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. And trust me, it's truly our privilege to have learned this wonderful insight from you. And what a great way to begin the deliberations of this very significant book, wherein sir aptly point out that yes, there are several internal and external dimensions whenever we look at foreign affairs apparatus of any particular nation, and to add to that the geographical aspects too. But most important, like even if we reflect from history or look at the contemporary times, the pandemic has once again reaffirmed the paramount significance of the nation state. Thank you so much, sir. With that, friends, in this book we have this wonderful foreword, and Dr. Gajarao Bhupal Garu, who is the Deputy Commissioner of Police, South Zone, Hyderabad, has written it. So with that, I come to Dr. Bhupal, and I request, sir, for a few perspectives from your side. As Dr. Sanjeev, sir, aptly pointed out, that it was the state which was actually helping out people. And you being in the administrative service, it's a very significant part of the state activities. How difficult, or of course, first your reflections with respect to the book, and yes, from the administrative point of view, how easy or how challenging was it to, to actually be the frontline warrior with respect to issues concerning civil society in the pandemic? Dr. Bhupal, please. So, a round of applause. Let's welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Mirza.
Dr. Bhupal.
First of all, I'd like to thank Ramesh for inviting me. We've known each other for the last 5 years, and it's been a very nice friend to me, and we've been in touch for a long time, and we have shared a lot of ideas with me, and we also discussed how to take Center for Human Security Studies. For us, we all know how important politics is and geopolitics is, and developing a strategic culture in India has always been a challenge, and more so because most of the strategic thinking was confined to Delhi, if I'm not wrong, and it is very important for us to bring it to other regional centers, because though Delhi is the capital and the most important city, India is a very diverse country, and we need centers in different places of India, such as the place we are sitting, because every place gives a different perspective of security. Even historically, places north of India, northwest of India, had a different security challenge. They were prone to invasion from the northwest. Whereas places down south, they were relatively immune to this invasion from the northwest, but they had a threat from the sea. And if you had go back in history, British did not come from the northwest of India. They had come from the south and east, and they went the opposite direction. So your perspective changes when you sit in Calcutta, when you sit in Chennai, than when you sit in Delhi. So it is very important for us to get these different perspectives, and for Ramesh to start it, and the kind of interest he has always had, the kind of enthusiasm he always had, it is very heartwarming, and we are always there to support him. And he also had to struggle a lot initially. Right now he's somehow managed to keep it afloat, and we must all congratulate Ramesh for that. And coming to the, yes, he deserves an applause. To the book, Geopolitics After COVID-19, of course, suddenly the world has become a very different place after COVID-19. And especially the fact that we were not prepared for a pandemic was such a big issue initially. Nobody had any experience of dealing with it. Nowhere in the world, people. And the previous pandemic was exactly 100 years ago, the Spanish flu pandemic in 1918 to 20, almost exactly 100 years ago. And after this pandemic had hit, I went back and did some research on the Spanish flu pandemic, And it was surprising that we had no idea about that, because that was because Indian census started in 1871. 1871, 81, every 10 years. So the only decade where the population had in fact come down. It is not just the reduction in growth, there was a negative population growth. The population had come down between 1911 and 1921. So there was no famines. Between those 10 years, there were no famines. And there was the war, the World War I, but it was not fought on Indian soil, and though Indian soldiers, around 60,000-70,000 of them had died, but it does not affect the figure. So the only thing that had reduced the population was the flu. It was such a devastating flu, but there was no institutional memory of that. And nowhere in the literature or any of the popular culture did we find this incidence of the flu. But then it had struck back, and nobody was prepared for that. And the way the governments had responded, the NGOs had responded, the administration had responded, it was quite admirable. And we had like two phases where there was a huge spurt in the cases. One was last September, October 2020, when the things seemed to just go out of hand, and the next this year, in April, May, June, it looked like we might just lose control of this, but luckily for us, we kept our cool. Everybody contributed, right from the normal man who is, for us having a secure job, it's a different thing, but for the people on the street, people who are in the non-regular jobs, the labor force who are dependent on all these things, it was a devastating blow for them. But the fact that they had supported the administration, in spite of the fact that they had lost their livelihood, is a very admirable thing. It had shown that people of India are willing to people of India are willing to cooperate if the government, if people in power, people in responsible positions show them the right direction, and we should not let them down. And this is a very good endeavor in this respect. Thank you, Ramesh, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Bhupal. You brilliantly sum up that how the impact of the lockdown, locking and unlocking phase, which was very different with respect to formal and informal sector. But most important is that how the people actually came forward and in a very positive manner cooperated with various initiatives which were there being put forward by state and the administration. Thank you so much. With this, dear friends, dear wonderful audience in the house, we now come to interact with the editors of the book. Dr. Ramesh, first of all, many congratulations for this wonderful book. And as Dr. Sanjeev Chopra sir and Dr. Bhupal were telling us that how the pandemic involved various aspects from human rights to technology to issues concerning national security, global governance, role of international organizations. And trust me, all of it is there in this book. And even to add to that, chapters on IPL, because it's very essential to understand, how an important aspect like a pandemic would have on everyday life. So first is the beautiful canvas the book has, comprising of chapters, deliberations, and research from various realms. So on that note, Dr. Ramesh, let's hear it from you. We all know that today security is at a multi-layered aspect. We know that military apparatus is very important, but at the same time, role of health, technology, economy, ecology, sustainability cannot be ignored. So on that note, your take on then how do we situate, how do we put forward the idea of geopolitics in this post-COVID-19 era?
Thank you, Dr. Amna Mirza. I think You have done a fabulous job by bringing out various aspects which we touched upon, we tried to touch upon in the book. I know it's a 360-degree view. Before I start about the book, my heartfelt, thanks or indebtedness to Dr. Sanju Chopra sir. Sir, please put your hands together for Dr. Sanju Chopra sir. I mean, what else? I'm a bit overwhelmed with the kind of, I'm a bit excited also because, where else you get an IAS officer of his repute, being the director of Labasna, Lal Bahadur Shastri National Academy of Administration, the apex body of Civil Services Training Institute, coming down to Hyderabad, I have never even thought about it that this book would have this kind of fate and destiny. Absolutely. So this is where I think, yes sir. And you scripted the story, sir, this success story. Sir, firstly, let me also put it on record the inconveniences caused from our side, a bit of the planning or lack of coordination. We will try to improvise upon it, sir. So with that, let me start also one more thing. My co-editor, Dr. Kacheni Junaya Sharma, when Sri B.P. Acharya sir introduced me, it's about, 8 to 9 months back when sir introduced, sir, Acharya sir told me, Ramesh, we have a young scholar. She is also into law, and also since you have started an artificial intelligence for human security within the CHSS think tank, why not you invite her to be on your board and all that? So I immediately responded, madam responded. I want to thank Mr. Rahul IAS, who is in the in the first row, Additional Collector Nalgonda. Sir, you have been a great support. You have been a great support, sir. So you encouraged Dr. Kachani. Dr. Kachani has been encouraging CHSS. So there is a connect there. So that's one thing. Coming back to the book, what constitutes national security? What constitutes human security? Conceptual clarity is a must. Clarity of thought is a must. Traditional security issues in general constitutes national security in the sense of territorial, physical protection of assets and the country from the territorial picture. You have so many law enforcement agencies. Sitting next to, left on me is Dr. Gajrao Bhupal sir, who is an IPS officer, maintenance of law and order, crime prevention, crime investigation. These are the portfolios of a police officer or the agenda of a police officer or given by MHA or the Constitution of India. We have Dr. Sanju Chopra sir himself, governance, taking care of from Garibi Hatao se leke Prime Minister tak jo bhi cheez karna hai, we have an Indian Administrative Service officer taking care of these things. So in a sense, national security is very well taken care. Part of the national security architecture is human security components which are vital, like the food, health, education, environment, women-related security, marginalized people and their security. All this constitutes in 3 words: freedom from fear, freedom from want, freedom to live one's life with dignity, are the cornerstones of human security, which is on the one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is the national security. As I told you, given India's size and shape, 15,000 kilometers of land borders, 7,516 kilometers of coastal borders, total put together 22,000 kilometers day in and day out. Jawans are working hard to protect you and me, and also officers like Gajrao Bhupal in Indian Police Service and many other. So what I'm trying to say is, there are certain, to take care of national security aspects, there are certain institutions already there. BSF, CRPF, CASF, ITBP, SSB, IB, RAW, police. These are the law enforcement and other issues. But what about human security? If you cannot give food, if you cannot give education, if you cannot give health, if you cannot give, security is a state of mind more than anything else, my dear. If you cannot give you that state of security in the mind, no matter you have F-16s or arms and ammunition, all kinds of latest technological gadgets to protect you, once your people are hungry, it's going to be a doomsday. So the policy makers of the day, it could be political leadership, or it could be people in the helm of affairs in the administrative service or police service, other central and civil services. We need to maintain that fine balance between human security aspects national security aspects. Then only it makes sense. The coin will have a value in the market once you have these two things intact. If human security operates on individual and state-centric notions, individual and society-centric, national security operates from the state-centric notion. So you need to have all three put together. Then you have that comprehensive, robust, synergetic, or you can say, let's say, wholesome security to the men in all sects and societies and cultures. To me, you might disagree in the audience. COVID-19, as I have seen, and I stand by it, what I stand on is what I stand for. What I stand on is what I stand for. Chinese orchestrated venomous imperial design. It's a free world that Dr. Chopra sir has created, Sanju Chopra sir. He has given us a platform to debate, discuss, disagree, still being democratically doing the state affairs. Wow, the value of votes, if I understood it correctly. Sir, you had given that much needed impetus to this country by creating an intellectual forum where the marginalized, the privileged, the underprivileged, and the not so underprivileged and privileged of all sects and communities can come together, debate on the points, discuss, disseminate information, give a healthy, robust, intellectual thing to the country. Dasya, Disya, Telugulo, we should know the Dasya and Disya. If this country has to stand in the comity of nations, the combination of hard power and soft power is smart power. We got to become smart power. That very much rests people who are sitting in the rows there. It's for you. It is not because of a time pass thing WoW is created. It is not a time pass thing. Lot of seriousness is involved, a lot of planning, determination, dedication. People who are traveling with the WoW, Valley of Culture, Valley of Words, from city to city during the pandemic, yes, they have taken a risk of the COVID-19. They could very well sit and relax at home. Why they are doing it? They are doing it for you, for the youngsters. Take it seriously. Otherwise, life will not take you seriously. Read the books, understand, reorganize your thoughts. So many people have died for this country's independence, right? So you are having the fruits of it. Why not you realize that? My great-grandfather, Kanniganti Hanumantu, was shot in 1922 by the British. Ken Rutherford, who shot Alluri Sitaramarazu. Those of you who come from the Telugu lands of Andhra and Telangana, you must be knowing that. So people have given up their life. I am the great-grandson of Kanniganti Hanumantu, who was shot in the freedom movement in 1922. We have the replica here, Komaram Bhim. So this land belongs to those warriors who had given their sweat, life and blood, like Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad. We should take them as experiences and also look up to them as role models. My dear students, whoever is listening to me, it is not a customary tradition or a small gathering of people who have retired from services. If you are thinking like that, you are very much wrong. They are the ones from the dawn to dusk worked hard and given a role models. They have, we have to follow these people who are on the dais. From nowhere to they have become somewhere in life. Between mother and motherland, they had set the targets. So this book is a combination of all these factors. Your food security, your water security, your cyber security, your coastal security, your right to have dignity of life, and more than anything else, India's immediate neighborhood. Afghanistan, Bangladesh, China, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, immediate neighborhood. Little extended neighborhood, ASEAN countries, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. If you go to the west side of India, you have the Gulf Cooperation Council countries. And if you go outside Asia, you have a beautiful Europe waiting for you to understand. So North America, South America, see, the whole world is spread, across the 7 seas. So how are you going to picturize or conceive? Whatever you can conceive, you can execute it. So you being as an young Indian, this is for you. WoW is for young India. Believe me, and I trust and I believe it is for you people who have to lead this moment into the 21st century comity of nations. So from liberalization, privatization, globalization, we have moved to now Googleization. From Googleization, we have moved to Chinization. How do we understand China? How do you understand China? In order to understand your enemy, you need to understand first yourself first. extremely important. You have to situate your geographical, geopolitics and geostrategy, geoeconomics put together. Where are you standing? All these articles are in this book, written by not many great Harvardian scholars, or not Stanfords, not Jainoites also, not many other universities like Usmania also, but young minds of St. Francis College, St. Anne's College, OP Jindal Global University, Gujarat National Law University, Nalsar University of Law. Sir, we have articles from St. Stephen's College, Delhi, sir. We have also, yes, sir, we have also articles from social welfare colleges, sir. Where is St. Stephen's? Where is social welfare college in Telangana? We could put them on one board. That is the greatest contribution which we feel very humbly presenting to all the audience and also who you are watching in the YouTube. We could put the privileged and the not so great privileged tribal college girls. Dr. Sanjeev Chopra sir has given certificates 2020 February. Sir, you only had given them, sir, after 1 month of internal security foreign affairs training to them. We could get social welfare and tribal welfare college girls to understand India's internal security and which has a direct bearing on external politics or external policies of India. Those articles are there, sir. If a Stephanian writes, if a LSR, Lady Shriram College girl writes, it doesn't matter. It matters in a sense of the Delhi, centric. But I'm talking from a regional center called Hyderabad. For us, what matters is a tribal girl, a social welfare college girl, understanding India's geopolitics and making a dream for herself in the Comity of Nations in the days to come. That's the real contribution of this book. With this, I think more Q&A I'll tell you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramesh. Yes, you aptly point out that human security has to have a fine balance between security of the people as well as security of the territory, and most important, how the nature of warfare is changing. There is a big debate with respect to biowarfare. There has been a big debate in international relations with respect to the pandemic treaty also. Wonderful insights, and yes, we'll be having more questions and remarks for Dr. Ramesh once we have the Q&A. With that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to go to Dr. Katyani Juneja Sharma ji, who is a wonderful law erudite person. She has her degrees in law. And, Katyani, and of course, hello Rahul ji out there. Good to have you here, and it's always good to have the wonderful support system to be there for the important occasion. Katyani, law was one area which was deliberated so much during the pandemic, that do we have adequate laws, or are we living in a world where challenges are redefining themselves every day, but the laws which will be our gatekeepers to guide us through, they are somewhere not in tune with time. So on that note, your reflections on the legal perspective and with respect to the bigger picture on the book. So ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Katyani Juneja Sharma Garu, who is one of the editors of this wonderful book. Dr. Katyani, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramna. Thank you, Dr. Sanjeev sir, Dr. Gujarrao Bhopal, and of course my co-editor, Dr. Ramesh Kannegatti. It has been an honor to be here, and I'm really indebted to you. It has been a big thing for me. Thank you so much. Coming back to the perspective, the international perspective that I have reflected in this book in particular, and how this pandemic had actually changed the world order, on which, while we are having various, the change of world order since the post-Cold War and the next, the post-Cold War and the proliferation of nuclear, chemical and biological weapons, the weapons which were considered to be weapons of mass destruction, and they were associated with various technology, materials and expertise, and the various landmark treaties that were initiated, as well as they were to prevent such terrorism, the terrorism which actually was to read the idea of United Nations that would have changed the world order, and the risks which were involved in monitoring and verification of such mechanisms. And one such treaty that came into picture while we were discussing this COVID-19 pandemic was the Convention on the Biological and Toxic Weapons, commonly known as the Biological Weapons Convention. This treaty was the pioneering, and it had binding effect while for the development and production and transfer of such biological and toxic weapons. But this treaty actually had never actually mentioned anything in relation to this pandemic or anything related to COVID-19 and anything related to such pandemic crisis that it could have helped and monitor such a compliance which had come up. Though we also have a UN convention that was related to chemical weapons exclusively, that a chemical weapons treaty, which actually promotes and prevents and promotes transparency into the investigations and procedure systems in relation to such chemical-based weapons. If we want to verify that how and where this COVID-19 had actually started to come up, whether it is a biological weapon or this virus actually just accidentally jumped up from any bioresearch facility in Wuhan province in China. So amongst this crisis, the global economy, the geopolitics actually stood still. And the only promising way was to have the vaccine. And vaccine is just not the solution, but actually erupted as a major weapon as a threat to the global security at large. So we can just say that even while we talk about the great powers who have actually been positioning themselves and strategizing themselves and establishing themselves in such relations actually could not help to deteriorate or improve upon the global economy. And almost past 1 year of this virus, the decline of the global economy and the collapse of various companies, even the small-sized enterprises, and various trade routes who have been on hold, the global tourism which was affected, could help the globe develop some sort of hope. But with the advent of the vaccine, considering this global health situation, the global health which has created the crisis all over, in order to deglobalize and override this mobility and need for exchange and circulation of this vaccine all across the globe, and various effects it could have, the vaccine has actually established another world order, and it has changed the equilibrium. And India has actually obtained a strategic advantage in developing in such international relations by developing vaccine in our own country. And also, it takes prestige for shifting the leaderships that it could develop and distribute the vaccine amongst the population, all of the political agendas, as well as across the globe. So the competition against these countries to secure the doses as well as the vaccines has actually set up the two different world orders. And also the rich countries will take the benefit of this, and they could have set up technologies and laboratories, whereas the deprived nations could not even get the vaccines in proper order. And the lesser and the cheaper vaccine is for the underdeveloped countries, and of course the expensive vaccines are for the richer and the wealthier countries. That's it for my part in.
Thank you so much, Katyayani. And yes, indeed, you aptly point out that yes, the pandemic did tell us that there will be redesigning of the global governance architecture. We have to now reimagine security, because now security cuts across all borders. And most important, while the word that Katyayani used, deglobalization, trust me, friends, this is an area where I would stand completely, into it, between globalization, reglobalization, and deglobalization. Allow me to point out that right at 2019 the UNESCO function at United Nations, at the G20 virtual summit, and at several occasions, it is India that has pointed out towards the need to reform globalization, and reform globalization in a manner that we place people over profits. I guess this is where the real crux of reform of global governance also lies. Sir, we take one question.
We have. We will have to sort of maybe a closing comment from all of us. But I think it's been a wonderful discussion. Thank you, Ramesh, for bringing it all together. I just want to tell you, Gajarao, that there's a beautiful book on the pandemics for 1 century by Chinmay Tumbe of the IIM Ahmedabad. And he's done a lovely coverage of how the pandemic struck in, and one difference that is there is that at that point of time it was possible to suppress information. And it took many years to then discover the historical data. that so many people have died. Today, one advantage or disadvantage is that every day you were knowing what has happened throughout the world. What has happened throughout the world and how good a nation has been. In fact, you could do an inter-country comparison, you could do a state-wise comparison, you could do a district-wise comparison. Within the district, you could do a block-wide comparison on how things have happened. And the other good thing about the learnings from this COVID was that we were all very quick, you know, to pick up on, and the best practices from different states was adopted. And I think compared to compared to the 1918 situation, I think we were able to manage with far fewer deaths. This is not to underestimate or not to undermine the death of any single individual, but the fact is that at least India was able to handle things in a fairly decent manner. This is an aspect of human security. I would, we'll have to close, Amna,
Absolutely,
because I can see that the next session is almost
So
ready.
on that note, yes.
But, we will certainly.
Congratulations, Dr. Ramesh. Congratulations, Dr. Katyani. Thank you, Dr. Bhupal Garu. And friends, let me place it on record that, working with Dr. Sanjeev Chopra, as you know, when Dr. Ramesh was introducing him, I would say he's an encyclopedia of knowledge and an absolute democratic leader. Every Sunday on a Zoom call, trust me, I used to learn my late principal at St. Stephen's College, Lake Dr. Anil Wilson, used to tell me, because I was a BA program student. And normally there's this thing that if you're a program student, you will not be able to do the best in the university because you're not in the honors, right? But I was fortunate enough to be the topper at Delhi University for all throughout my BA program and MA. And you know what Dr. Wilson used to say, that education in true sense takes place beyond the curriculum. Now that I'm a faculty, each meeting of the Board of Governors at Valley of Words, it used to teach me so much. It used to teach me with respect to translations. It used to teach me with respect to scientific literature. And of course, with respect to my area. So gratitude, Dr. Sanjeev Chopra. You are an encyclopedia of knowledge, a visionary. And and let me tell you, WOW has been completely redone by Sir in a phygital manner, in a unique manner, taking the best sides of everything. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So here's WOW for you all.